Hey everyone, this is Ellie Mae with Artesprix, and in today's video I'm going to share with you how you can create custom magnets. Let's take a look at the supplies we'll need for this project. You will need the Artesprix Sublimation magnets, as well as whatever stamp set you would like to use with your design. I'm going to be using the Artesprix stamp block. It is an acrylic block for acrylic stamps, as well as the Artesprix heat tape, which is specialized heat tape to secure your blank to the copy paper. Yes, copy paper, plain old ordinary copy paper. We're going to take with the Artesprix Sublimation ink pads. I'm going to be using multiple colors in this video, and I also have the Artesprix multi-purpose cleaner on hand to clean my stamps and my stamp block. I'm going to be using a small paintbrush and some water, as well as the Artesprix protective paper. This is one of the most important parts of the process. You want to make sure to protect your heat source on the top and the bottom with the Artesprix protective paper when you go to press. We will be pressing this magnet at 400 degrees for 75 seconds. So be very careful. It will be very hot when you go to take it off. You will also need just some basic tools. Pencil. Pencil does not transfer to your blank, so it works very well for creating templates where you know where you can design in and what your design is going to look like, as well as just some scissors. I also have the Artesprix protective pad off to the side here. When I go to pull my magnets off of the hot heat press, I'm going to place it on the protective pad. I think that's everything. I do have a silicone mat underneath. I'm going to be playing with some inks and smooshing some things around. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up these magnets and take one out of the package. I do like to keep the rest inside the package as long as possible to keep any dust or debris out. I simply need one right now while I am working on my design. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to place the white side down on my paper, and I'm going to draw out around this. Again, pencil does not transfer. You do not want to use pen or marker, or that can transfer to the blank when you go to press it. So I'm going to draw out 4 of these templates so I know where to place my design. Now, I did give myself a little bit of a space between these. Hopefully it's enough space. I'm then just going to take this and I'm going to place it back in the package just so that it doesn't get any dirt or debris on it while I am working with the inks. So now I have my sheet of copy paper with my templates drawn out. The first thing I'm going to do, and you can do this in different steps. If you want to do the colors first, on some of them you could do the colors first. Just really, it really just depends on what you want to do or what style you're going for. I'm going to take this stamp set. I'm going to take the stamp block, and I'm simply going to take my stamps off. And I've just chosen this set. It's kind of a mixed media set. And I'm going to use some of these butterflies and dragonflies. So I'm going to use the brown ink, step away from my usual color of black, and I'm going to pick up my stamp on the stamp block. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to place my stamp down, stamp side up, and I'm going to ink it from the top. This way I can see how much ink. You do not need to squish it down. The Artesprix ink pads are pretty liquid, so you just want to make sure you have some good coverage there. And the best part about this is if you mess up, it's just copy paper. Grab another sheet and start playing. So I'm just going to position this however I want. Really, there is no wrong way to do this. Stamp that on there, and then I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take my cleaner, I'm going to spray it off camera, and then grab a paper towel. And I'm simply just going to wipe that off. And then I'm going to grab a different one, and I'm going to do the same thing on all of these. And then once I have my stamps on here, I have stamped those in the brown ink. You could use black if you'd like to. I'm going to start working with some colors, and you can just change this up however you would like to. I'm going to use the acrylic stamp block as my palette. So what I'm going to do is let's take some yellow and just kind of dab that on there. And then I can take some orange and dab it on there. And now I have two colors to play around with. So the first one up here, you can color your butterfly or whatever your image is. I'm just going to add some water to this to make it a little bit lighter. So we're going to do kind of a watercolor technique. Keep in mind that your Artesprix, your sublimation inks are lighter on your paper. They brighten up as they are heat pressed with the high temperature and the pressure. So if you have a light color, that's okay. It's going to brighten up when you go to press it. So I'm simply just adding some color in here. And I am just using a high quality copy paper. It's thicker, a little bit thicker than the cheap copy paper. So it's going to hold up a little bit better to water, but you could also use mixed media paper as well. I do that often with paints or the watercolor techniques. Really, it doesn't matter. This is going to hold up well as long as I don't oversaturate it. So I'm just going to finish this out. And then with this excess ink here, I am going to take just an extra sheet of paper, and you don't need to waste this. You can go ahead. I'm just going to add some more water on here. And then I'll just blot this off. I can use this for a future project if I want to. So you can do that, and then you can go ahead and wipe off any of the extra water when you go to switch colors. So now I'm going to color this second one, and if you wanted to, you could color a background around it. Let's see what turns out. So I'm gonna grab some blue and a purple. And then add some water, and I'll follow the same steps. And then I'll bring this off to the side here. I'm going to just wet this down a little bit more. Pull that color around. Can mix them together a little bit if you wanted to. Play with some color mixing. And then there I have kind of a color splotch. I don't like to wash away any of that ink. I keep it for future projects and see what happens, see what I want to add to it. So now I have my clean block again, and then I'm going to do kind of the same technique with the color smooshing on these two over here. I am going to cut this apart just to be safe. And I'll set that one aside just so that I don't get any mixing in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to smush this on here just a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. Add some water to it, and I'm going to give this one a background. So this is a pink. And I love that with the Artesprix sublimation products, you can get a gradient. So it's not always a solid image. So it's very hard to see. We're going to see what this turns out like. But once I smush it down, that water is going to give it that watercolor effect, and you can come out with all kinds of different things. So that one is pink, and let's go ahead and do a purple one. We'll make it a light purple, hopefully. Keep in mind, remember that the ink is lighter on the paper before it's pressed, and then it brightens up with the high heat and the pressure. Adding water is going to dilute that and make it a bit lighter. And we'll do the same thing down here. It gives it just a little bit of a unique look. We'll see what these turn out like. So on these two here, or well, actually on all of them, anything that is showing as white is going to remain white. So it's going to remain the color of the magnet. So it's going to remain that white. So we'll see how a white background versus one that has a little bit of white showing. So our next step is going to be to take out our magnet blank, and we're going to, you want to make sure that it's dry. And then I'm going to place it over top of my template. Now the best part about using pencil is if I'm off by just a little bit, so I have a little bit of this wing that's hanging out here, I can adjust this. The pencil is not going to transfer, so I have a lot of wiggle room there. So I'm just going to grab some of this heat tape, and I'm going to secure my blank with the heat tape. And you do not want it to move or you could get ghosting. So you want to make sure that it is very secure. And I'm going to do the same thing for all of these. And once those are secure, I'm going to grab my protective paper. I'm going to roll some of this out, and you want your protective paper on the bottom. So you're going to make a sandwich or a taco. Protective paper on the bottom. Let's cut around these just a little bit so I don't have so much space. And then you're going to take your blank, you're going to flip it over so that the print is at the top, your blank is underneath. You want the heat to hit the top of your sublimation blank. And then I'm just going to fold this over, and you want to make sure to protect your heat source. And I'm going to cut this. Set that aside, and we're going to place it onto our heat source. You have your protective paper, you have your blank, and then you have the print on top, and you're going to have another layer of protective paper. Just going to smush these all the way towards the back, and then carefully move it to my heat press. Heat press is at 400 degrees. We're going to press it for 75 seconds, and then you carefully release the heat press when time is up. So here we go. Once it beeps, I'm going to carefully release the heat press and just kind of let it settle there for just a second and slowly release. And then very carefully, because these are metal magnets, I'm going to grab it by the protective paper, but you can also use heat safe gloves. And I'm going to lay it down onto the protective mat. This Artesprix protective mat is one of my favorite tools. I have both sizes. It protects your workspace up for the high heat of sublimation, and I use it for all kinds of projects. So I'm going to carefully reveal this. And then the first thing I want to show here is that if you have any sublimation ink that has come out onto the protective paper, you do not want to reuse this. It could transfer to future blanks or even your surface of your heat press, and you do not want that to happen. So you can see, because I had excess ink, it did transfer. So I'm going to not reuse this paper. I'm just going to let these cool for just a little bit. Now comes the fun part, the reveal. So let's start over here with these mostly white. And they still are a little bit warm for me, so I'm just going to be careful. Take that off. And you can see on this one, that the colors brighten up because we used a water. It kind of lightened the ink up, but they brighten up as the heat and pressure is applied. This one, the reveal is always my favorite part. Well, I like designing it too. The coloring and the different things. So there is the second one. Got a little outside the lines here. Again, you could use black ink as well if you wanted to for your base, for your stamp. It just really depends. I chose to use brown just because it was a mixed media type of stamp set. I wanted to see, and I don't often use brown, so I thought it would be a good time to use that. here you can see that there's kind of a watercolor wash background on these ones. So you have a couple different techniques and styles that you could use. And even though it is designed like a hexagon, we often think this is how it has to be with the top and the bottom, but you can turn it however you like. These two here have the points. They were designed, let's see, how did I do that? I don't even remember how I had it. I had one of them like this, and I think one of them like this, but you could just turn it up and down. You are in charge of that, and you have the magnets. There is a, for the finishing touch, you have a magnet side. You have a little sheet of protective paper here. Peel that off, and you're going to place it on the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set it down, decide how I want this, and I guess it doesn't really matter because you can always put them on the surface however you like. Just make sure that you get it somewhat centered in the middle of that. So I'll turn these over. And then you have a set of custom made magnets. You could use all kinds of different stamp sets with it. The only limit you have is what fits onto your blank. So you can create and you can design with that, play around with the different placement and see what you can create. Make sure to check out the links below this video for additional resources, as well as links to the supplies and more inspiration. Have fun, see what you can create with the Artesprix Sublimation products. Thanks for watching and have a great day.